Okay, for topic 11 here, we are going to be factoring. And specifically on this one, we're just going to be able to pull out a GCF, which is a greatest common factor. So I'm trying to pull out a greatest common factor out of both of these terms. So what I could see would be pulled out would be a 5 out of the numbers. And then for the letters, I could pull out two a's or a squared from each of them. And that would leave me with a 2. I would pull all of the a's out of there, so there would be none left. And then on the second part, if I pulled out a 5, I'd be left with a -5. And if I pulled two of the a's out, there would only be one a left. So that problem is actually finished. It's factored. I don't know if that's the way I would write it. I might change it around to be 5a squared minus 5a plus 2, because I just like the order of that a coming first. But I think Alex would accept either of those. Okay, next we're going to factor by grouping. And what that means is I'm going to group the first two terms and the last two terms like this. And I'm going to pull numbers out just like I did on the last problem. So from the first group, I can pull out w squared, and that's the only thing. I can't pull out any numbers because there's no numbers that go into 5 and 4. Whoops. So a w squared, and then what would be left? Well, we would have a 5 there, and that one would still have a w. In the second portion, we would have a 4, but I pulled out both of the w's already, so it would just be the 4. In the second group of parentheses, I could pull out a positive 7. If I pull a 7 out of the first term, that would leave me with a 5 and a w left over. I could pull out a 7 out of the second group there, and I would be left with a 4. And now at this point, I'm noticing that I've got two sets of parentheses that are the same, and this is where things kind of get crazy. We have to think about this like it's distributive property, but only backwards. So for example, if I told you a times b plus c, if that was the problem I gave you, you would be able to distribute that a in, and you would get a times b plus a times c, right? This is that problem if you distributed it. So what's left is I'm noticing here we've got two of the same things, just like we had here. Those two a's are exactly the same. It's separated by a plus sign. And then we have some random things. So like that b would be random with that w squared, and c would be random with that 7. But I want to go backwards. I want to go from this step to this step now. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the a's and I'm going to bring them out. Or in this case, I'm going to take these 5w plus 4s, and I'm going to bring them out. This is called anti-distributing, where I'm going to pull out the 5w plus 4, and they're basically going to combine and turn into 1, just like we had in the original there. And then everything that's left, for example, the b and the c, they were in parentheses with an addition symbol between them. So that's how I'm going to leave them as my final answer as well. I'm going to put them together with an addition symbol between them, just like that. That's your final answer for number 12. That's kind of tricky. That's something that we're going to go over in class quite a bit throughout this unit. Topic number 13. Okay, it says factor by grouping again. So let's do it. So I'm gonna put parentheses around the first part. I've also got to put parentheses around the second part, but notice that there's a minus sign there. So I've got to make sure that I turn that to a plus between them and put the minus sign inside the parentheses, and now it's just acting like a negative. So I could have rewritten it as y, or so this negative 7y squared plus negative 30. And that would basically mean the same thing. So now I just change that to a plus. That makes the problem a lot easier. Okay, let's group. So 5 and 7, we can't pull something out of those, but we could for sure pull y's out. I'm going to pull y squared. Then we'll be left with 5y minus 7. In the second group, I could pull out a negative, let's see, 7? No, 6? Yeah, 6 would be better. I'll pull out a negative 6. Why am I pulling out a negative 6 and not a positive 6? Because the first term is a negative, and that's a huge thing that I'm not going to spend too much time talking about now. But if your first term in the group is a negative, always pull out the negative. Then we're left with a 5 and a y. And in the second part, if I pull out a negative 6, that would leave me with a negative 7. Okay, now I've got the same two terms. If you're confused on this step, go back to topic 12, but I'm going to take those 5y minus 7s, and I'm going to group them, and I'm going to put in the second set of parentheses y squared minus 6. Topic number 14. We're factoring this, and it's got an a value of 1. That's a big key. If it's got an a value of 1, these problems become pretty easy because we can go right to our last step. I know that if I were to FOIL this backwards, that those y's, if I multiplied them together, they would give me that first term, y squared. I also know that I need two numbers in the back that would multiply to give me negative 20. So it's either going to be 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. It's going to be one of those combinations, and then we just have to put one of them as a negative. Well, I know when I add the middle piece, it's got to be a negative 1. So when I add these together, so when I multiply them, I'm going to get a negative 20. When I add them, I'm going to get a negative 1. That will only work if we use these and I make that 5 a negative. Because when I add them, they'll become a negative 1, and when I multiply them, they'll become a negative 20. So I'll use my plus 4 there, I'll use my negative 5 there, and those are factored. That might not be near enough information for you, so if that's confusing, you're going to have to come find help. Topic number 15. Again, we're getting into some territory here where if we're absolutely confused, we need to get help, but we're going to start going through this. So I see right away that I should pull out something out of each of those terms to make this problem easier. We've got some really big numbers going on right now, but I know I can pull out a 3 out of everything. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to pull out a 3. That's going to leave me with w squared plus 11w plus 30. Okay, next, I am going to let's see here. I'm going to factor that inside parentheses portion. So we'll have the 3 just hanging out. I can go right to my answer, honestly, because I've got w squared, which is really, there's a 1 in front of it. That's a good sign. And this is factoring just like on topic number 14. So I need numbers that multiply to 30, which would be 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10. Let's see. I think just 6 and 5 would be my last ones. I'll put the 5 on this side, though, because it's a lower number. I think that's all of them. And I need them to also add to 11. So I need these two to multiply to 30 and add to get 11. Where am I pulling these numbers from? If you're not sure, I'm pulling them from right here. Okay, so which 2 would that be? I can obviously tell that it's going to be those. So it would be 5 and 6, and they will both be positives because they both need to turn out positive when you add and multiply them. Factoring this one. Now we're getting into some more difficult territory because I can't pull out a 3. We're actually working on problems now that you have an a value. There's 2 ways to go about solving these. I probably on this will show you the surefire method just so that we can do it at home and we don't get absolutely confused. The surefire method is to write down A, C, and B. And by doing this, what I mean is I want to multiply my A value by my C value. Here's my A value and there's my C value. because it goes A, B, C. So 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. My B value is 20. So I need two numbers that multiply to give me negative 21 and add to give me a 20. So when I do that, let's see here. I just got to go through and figure it out now. So I think it would be, if they're adding to give me 20, I would think it would be a 20 and a negative 1 as my two numbers. Or sorry, 21. I messed that up. Sorry. 21 and negative 1 should work. Because if I multiply those two numbers, they'll give me a negative 21. If I add them, they'll give me a 20. That should work. Okay, so sometimes, like you just saw, sometimes it takes you a couple tries. Takes you a little bit of time. That's okay. You just got to come up with those numbers. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those numbers and I'm going to replace my b value. So I'll have 3x squared plus 21x minus 1x minus 7. So if you look what I just did, I replaced this 20x with these numbers and x is attached to them. Because really what you see in line 2 is exactly the same thing as line 1. 21x minus 1x is 20x. So nothing's changed. Now I can go into grouping. And notice I have a negative there, so I'll have to change it to a positive between. Okay, and now I can pull things out. I'm going to pull out a 3 and an x. That will leave me with x plus 7. In the second group, I can pull out a negative 1, and I want to pull out a negative because it's in my first term, so I'll pull out a negative 1. That'll leave me with x plus 7. So then my last step would be x plus 7 comes to the front, and then I'm left with 3x minus 1. That's it for topic number 16. Topic number 17 is very similar. I'm going to go very quick with it. There's nothing I can pull out to start. I'm going to go right to my AC and my B. So AC here would be negative 42. My B value would be 19. This might take me a second. Let me think. Two numbers that multiply to give me negative 42 and add to give me 19. You might beat me to the answer here. I'm under pressure. Let's see. I'm thinking maybe 21 and 2. I think that would work. So if I had a 21 and a negative 2, those two numbers would multiply to give me negative 42, but they would add to give me 19. Then I'm going to split up my B value just like I did on topic number 16. Okay, again, those two lines are exactly the same. Step 2 and step 1 here. These are the exact same thing. I just split that 19 up into two things that are equal to 19. Then I can group. I can pull a 21 out and a y. I'll just be left with y plus 1. And in the second group, I could pull out a negative 2, and I'll be left with y plus 1. Then we will have y plus 1 and 21y minus 2 as our two factors. Topic number 18. All right, looking like these are getting even more complicated. So let's see. I don't think I can pull anything out. I'm just checking, and I think 27 must be a prime number. Nothing I can pull out of that. So we're going to have to go big here. A, C, and B. So A times C. You might need a calculator for some of these questions, but it should be 280. Sure we can't pull anything out? Yeah, I guess so. My B value is 27. So I need two numbers that multiply to give me 280 and add to give me 27. This could take a while. Let me see what we have. Oh, I guess that's going to be a negative 280. So that would help. I do have a negative there. Forgot. So when I multiplied A times C, that should be a negative. So that's important. Let's see. I'm just taking 280 and I'm dividing it by random numbers. So 8 and 35 is one that I got. That could be close. 8 and 35. I think that might be actually right. Yeah, so if I had a negative 8, I think that would work. So then we could do 14z squared minus 8z plus 35z minus 20. I think this might work. So then what could I pull out of the first two? I could pull out a 2. That's about it. Oh, I guess a z as well. Sorry. Pull out a 2 and a z. I'll be left with 7z. And then if I pull out a 2 out of a negative 8z, that would be a negative 4. In the second group, I could pull out a 5, which would leave me with 7z and negative 4. Okay, so then we would have 7z minus 4 in parentheses. We will also have 2z plus 5 in parentheses. And we're done with this problem. Topic number 19, factor completely. It says, the first thing I want to do before I start this question is I would like to pull out a negative 1 out of everything. So I'm going to do that first. If I pull a negative 1 out, I'll be left with 3u squared minus 11u minus 10. Oh, I'm sorry. I pulled out the negative. So those would both be positive. Everything's positive now. Then it's just the same problems that we were doing before. So AC and B. AC is 30. B is 11. Two numbers that multiply to give me 30 and add to give me 11 would be 6 and 5, I believe. So separate our B value. Negative 1 times 3u squared plus 6u plus 5u plus 10. Okay, we can start to separate things now. So we could pull out, I guess I'm going to just need to be careful here because that negative 1 will be multiplied by everything. So I'll have to pull out a 3 and a u. Okay, I'm putting everything in parentheses. Maybe it would be easier if I did this. Everything in here is separated now. So 3u, that would leave me with a u and a 2. Over here, I could pull out a 5. That would leave me with a u and a 2. So everything in that color is kind of still out there. Now our final step, we would bring down that negative 1 again. And I'm going to put that u plus 2 in the front. And then I'm going to put that 3u plus 5 right there. And I think that is completely factored. Okay, topic number 20. Let's finish this up. So topic number 20 here, what am I factoring here? It looks like I went back to easier problems, honestly. It looks like topic number 20, I went back to some easier problems because we don't have an A value anymore. But actually, this is like a special type of question. I can already tell 16 and 8, those are always some special numbers, but let's just see what happens here. If I'm going to factor this, I'll have a y there and a y there. We can go right to our answer if our a value is 1. I need two numbers that multiply to give me 16 and add to give me 8. Sorry. Again, I need two numbers that multiply to give me 16 and add to give me an 8. I just know that those are going to be 4s. So I'll have a 4 there and a 4 there, and these are going to be added together because everything up there is positive. And now what we have is y plus 4 and y plus 4 being multiplied. So I can actually rewrite this as y plus 4 squared. And that's how I would leave my answer. That's kind of why that's a special one. I just want to see what's going on here, but I might end the video. Maybe we could do a couple more. These look like they're quick. Topic number 21, starting here. What I'm noticing is perfect square and perfect square. And so I'm just going to guess to start actually with this one. This is a special type of problem. If you see perfect squares in the front and the back, we can actually start by guessing and then check our work at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start like this, and I'm going to say the square root of 25 is 5. The square root of v squared is v. So if I put 5v and 5v there, those multiplied together will give me 25v squared. In the back part, I've got a 16. So if I separate that, that would be a 4 and a 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. Now the last thing I need to do is I need to be careful because I want it to add up to 40 when I have those two terms. But since everything's positive, you can probably guess that they're going to be positive inside there as well. And then you can check to see, does 4 times 5v and 5v times 4, when you add those together, does it make 40v? And yeah, because it does, because these are 20v and the outsides are 20v. The insides and outsides are both 20v, and when you add them, you get 40v. So my final answer here would be 5v plus 4 squared. So that's kind of a special one when you have perfect squares on the outsides, like the 25 and the 16. It makes it kind of easy, as long as that middle term ends up working, which is something you'd have to check. Topic number 22. I am going to, I noticed that this is a difference of squares, which is a special name that we give it, which means basically my b terms canceled out, which means when we get to our steps like this, we know we'll have x and x. We know we'll have 2 3s there, because those 3s will multiply to give us 9, and we need to make one of them positive and one of them negative, so those middle 2 steps will cancel out. Topic 22 is very similar to like topic, I think it's number 5. If you go back to topic number 5 in the previous videos, you can see that it's basically the same thing as that, except backwards. So if you're really confused on that, go back to topic number 5. Here's another one with difference of squares. This is the exact same question, basically, except now we will have a 5 in front with our x. And in back, I can see that that's a perfect square, so we'll have an 8 there and an 8 there. And the only way to cancel out the middle term is to make one of them negative and one of them positive, just like that.